Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm Kelly Hallman. I'll be presenting with my colleague Lisa, who will be speaking a little bit later. So we're really thrilled to be here today, and thankful to USET for organizing in a difficult time when we're all experiencing virtual fatigue, but we're really happy that you joined us today. So thank you for tuning in. We just wanted to describe our program a little bit, tell you what we're doing, and we will have an interactive phase, 2 phases to our presentation today. So hopefully you won't be falling asleep sitting there at your desk. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have 60 minutes. We may not need it all, but we'll give you an overview of the Indigenous Adolescent Girls Empowerment Network. We'll do a poll and a discussion based on the responses. We will demonstrate a group exercise that we do with many of our partners to really kick off the discussion in their communities. We'll have a Q&A session and then wrap up. Next slide. So I don't need to tell any of you, what goes on in tribal communities. We realize all tribal communities are different, but overall, Native American people have had mainstream programs often forced upon them. These have not been appropriate or effective in most cases and harmful in many other cases. We experience historical trauma, racism, structural violence. Our communities are woefully underinvested in, but at the same time overregulated. We also have poorer health outcomes than other communities. That missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls is a real problem, big historical structural issue. And so overall, tribal communities are seeking ways to thrive and heal in their own way, using their own culture and practices. Next slide, please. So this graph shows some of the work that we did with one of our partners that we'll talk more about our partners in a little bit. But we essentially went house to house and we did something like a short roster of youth in the community. This is in a northern Plains tribal nation that is one of our partners. And we asked just a few questions, and one of them was who the young person is living with, whether they resided with both parents, with a mother only, father only, a grandparent, or with neither a parent or grandparent. And what we found here, you can see by age bracket, girls who are 6 to 9 are shown in the first bar, girls 10 to 14 in the second bar, and 15 to 19 in the third bar. And you can see that a whole lot of them in the light blue section of the bar are not living with either a mother, a father, or a grandparent. And so, colonialism has really wreaked havoc on many of our family structures and traditional resilience systems, and children are taken away at a disproportionate rate by the state, by the government. And so there are a number of girls who are maybe living with an aunt, a sister, with a friend. Maybe some of them are ICWA girls, Indian Child Welfare Act, who hopefully have been placed with a Native family, but the point of this particular slide is that a lot of girls do not have the sort of parental presence or even a grandparent there in their home to give them guidance that they might need as they make life transitions. Next slide, please. So similarly, many girls at some point in their lives will become the primary caretakers of a household or family. This is data from the Annie E. Casey Foundation showing the percentage of children aged 0 to 17 who are residing with just one guardian with a one parent or one grandparent. And you can see in American Indian communities, it's about half of children. And so girls are already, having responsibility for taking care of younger siblings, sometimes for cousins, also, helping their mothers through different difficult times, sometimes caring for a grandparent. And so, they have a lot of responsibilities, and at some point in their lives, they may face, even more. So, there really are vast numbers of supports that Native girls need to face what they're going through today, as well as some of the responsibilities they may have in the future. Next slide, please. So this is another set of data. This is from the National Financial Capability Study. And this shows data from just Native communities. So within Native communities, what is going on with females versus males? The red bars are the females and the blue bars are the males. And you can see here across a number of dimensions, females are actually more financially at risk than males. So this is within the same community. So they have access to the same resources, but men are just more able to obtain credit cards, earning possibilities. So women are more financially fragile. Women are less likely to have emergency savings. They're less likely to have investments that are not related to retirement funds. They're less likely to have financial literacy, know how to get a credit card, how to know your credit score, how to get a small business loan. So, clearly, even within the Native community, there are gender differences in access to resources, and we really think that this needs to be a higher focus, and we need to have some programs that address this issue too. Next slide, please. So this is a review of Native programs that we did. It's been, a few years now, and we actually should probably do another one and refresh it. But when we did this back in 2017, these are, just looking on the internet for what was going on with Native youth. And there were, a growing number of Native youth programs, which is great. I am so happy that, the Obama administration put a lot of funding into this, and that, things are continuing even now. But what we found in a lot of these programs is that they didn't have a focus on gender. Many of them are, just lumping boys and girls together. And we know that boys and girls face different risks. Also, girls who are 25 years old face very different risks than girls who are 10 years old. And we are also quite aware of the income disparities within Native communities. Some Native people are doing quite well, whereas others are, very much economically at risk. And so we don't think that, lumping all Native youth together necessarily meets the needs of all, the different types of Native youth that are out there by, boy, girl, high versus low income, rural versus urban. So we think there could be a lot done to fine-tune programs. Next slide, please. So this is a kind of visual for what we would like to do. So as girls become teenagers, as they get into, the puberty stage and start to become women, there are a lot of potential things that can happen to them. And certainly even before 8 years old, these things can occur. But increasingly, as they start to being viewed as women in their community, they face some extra risks. And so we would really like to help them avoid some of the things that are listed down here in this little chasm. And we have done a number of such programs in communities around the world that are supportive to girls, help communities better reach at-risk girls. And we have demonstrated that supportive connections, social emotional skills, cultural knowledge, financial access and skills, and support for education, health, and training, homework clubs, you know, how to apply for college, etc. These things can all help girls traverse this, you know, difficult time when they're transitioning from girls to women. Next slide, please. So the way we have done this is with tribal communities, we help them look at what's going on in their community and set up what we refer to as girl societies. And this is essentially a girls talking circle, but what makes it a little different is it's held at a regular time so that it's reliably available to girls. So girls know that, you know, every Saturday morning, this thing is available for me to go to, or every Tuesday afternoon, or whatever the community decides, you know, based on their configuration, what's best. But the reliability of the offering is what makes it different. It's not just a one-time thing, it's offered throughout the year. Girls, usually it's done by age bracket so that girls who have things in common can get together, say, you know, 10 to 12-year-olds, 13 to 15-year-olds. Again, that's very flexible depending on the community. And the way we do this is women in the community are trained to run these programs, how to facilitate groups, how to recruit girls, interact with parents, guardians, community leaders to help support girls. So it's often done in pairs of women, and it works well when there's a young adult woman and an elder woman. So the young adult is usually someone who's a little more technologically savvy, can connect with girls on social media, you know, other sort of technology platforms. And the elder mentor is someone who brings, you know, the cultural knowledge, historical, you know, memories from how we used to live, what things were important, how we survived, native food, you know, other sorts of cultural values that girls are usually quite eager to learn about. And again, the age range can be variable, but it's usually girls 9 through 15. Girls who are a little older in high school, they usually are more eager to serve as mentors instead of being in a group themselves. But again, that's flexible depending on what the needs and the preferences of the community are. Next slide, please. So how is Imagine different? I mentioned some of these already, but essentially we equip Native communities to make female intergenerational networks more accessible to the least connected. Often there are mentorship relationships between some girls who have, you know, supportive parents, grandparents, aunties, but not all girls have that. And so we think that girls in particular who may not have the family network to provide that support are really the ones who need it the most. And so these are girls who can include ICWA girls, survivors of violence, even girls who are incarcerated. Some of our partners are working with girls who are in the juvenile detention centers, girls who are still in school but maybe on probation. Some of the schools have used girl societies to get girls sort of back into you know, mainstream classrooms. Also gender expansive girls. We are welcoming and really want to have anyone who identifies as female. And our partners have done that in you know, traditional Indigenous ways. We want these to be reliably and systematically offered, like I mentioned in the previous slides, purposefully more protective so that we know which girls live in the community. And if a girl doesn't show up or, you know, she's suddenly missing, we know that early on. And so, you know, it's not 6 months or a year after a girl disappears that, you know, somebody's starting to do something. So that's really one of the hallmarks, is knowing when something is going wrong. We keep culture as a primary focus. Gender and life stage are really important. So we want the traditional cultural teachings that helped girls become women, be something that they can have access to. There's sovereign determination of content. We offer a curriculum and content that can be used in the girl meetings, but we also leave it up to each local tribal partner as to what they want to have in their girls group. The girls are the ones who decide. So, we have a sort of curriculum of 28 or 30 lessons, and they can use that if they want, but they don't have to. We also have the planning tools that can help you set this up, the implementation tools like an intake register, how to track attendance, and then also assessments as well. How are things going? Where do mentors need support? And then we also have this group that we convene online. So women who are doing these girl societies throughout the country are able to get together every month or every 2 weeks, depending on the time of year, to support one another, to give each other, encouragement, ideas, troubleshoot. And so there really is a network of women who are just not, doing this in isolation in their own community. They're doing it with a whole group of Native women across the country. Next slide. So the Imagine process, we have worked with an advisory council of Native women. We have, I think it's 8 women who are our advisors. We have been able to give large grants to a few organizations that we'll describe shortly. We have also trained almost 140 American Indian women in this Girl Society approach. We found that, in any particular community, obviously, people have their own lives and things going on in their real lives. So it's not just the 2 women who are running any group at any one time. We train probably 10 women for any girls group that's going on, because we realize people have family emergencies. They cycle in and out of being a Girl Society mentor. So for each Girl Society group, we'd like to have 10 mentors so that women can, trade off and keep the group going if one of them or 2 of them have family issues that they need to go off and deal with. The Imagine Circle is what I just talked about, this virtual gathering. We've held that every 2 weeks since March of 2020. And we were also able to do some micro grants during COVID to help communities respond to what was going on. And Lisa will talk more about that in a few minutes. Next slide, please. So these were the awardees of our large grant competition. We had a call for proposals in late 2019, and the awardees who have gotten not only the continuous support through the bi-weekly virtual gatherings, but also in-person training, funding for some of their staff time, are the organizations listed here. We wanted to have a geographic focus in one place to begin with, because we found if we do this where it's concentrated, people start to see what's going on, and there's more sort of momentum and attention to girls' societies. And so we chose South Dakota as our main first primary focus. And obviously we want to expand to other places. But then we had a couple other really strong proposals from Minnesota and Oklahoma, so we funded them too. And hopefully we'll be able to do this a lot more in the future. Next slide, please. So we wanted to show you a video today, but the big marker platform doesn't seem to be the most friendly because of firewall issues. And so we know the video doesn't play well on Zoom. And so we wanted to provide you with links to a documentary that the Voice of America did about our program, which is won a number of awards at film festivals, even more than is shown here. But that's a 33-minute film, and you can find it on YouTube, the Lakota Daughters. The URL is here, but if you just search Lakota Daughters, it's there. I think we're up to, like, I don't know, many hundreds of thousands of views by now, so a lot of people have seen it. We put together a 90-second sort of trailer about the Imagine program from this video. So if you want to look at the 90-second one, the link is there. And then if you see this film and you're really fired up about it, and you want to have a film panel with a question and answer that includes us, contact us. We're happy to do that. We've done a number of these Q&A film festival discussions, and they're fun and they work out well. So, and with Zoom, we know how to do it now. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Lisa, and thank you for your time.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you today. I'm going to talk a little bit about how COVID impacted both Imagine and the partners that we work with. Initially, obviously, the big impacts are before COVID-19, our girls' societies were meeting in person on a regular schedule, in a regular space. But obviously, starting in March of 2020, that was no longer possible. We were also holding workshops, in-person workshops, to try to help train mentors, to support our partners as they implemented programming. And obviously that was also no longer possible with nobody traveling. So during COVID-19, there was a sort of a time lapse, but pretty quickly our partners started trying to connect virtually with their girls. They found cell phone friendly platforms, including Google Meet, Facebook Live, Zoom for some of them. We have partners in health clinics who used sort of very safe, I think, proprietary one-on-one check-ins that they were then able to expand into group meetings. For girls who did not have access to smartphones or even regular flip phones, they were able to fund providing girls with phones, many of our partners, and they were able to provide data plans so that girls could connect with them. They also increased their meeting frequency with the girls, and they made sure to do more one-on-one mental health checkups with the girls. So there was a lot of connection virtually. We also, as Kelly mentioned, we bumped up our meetings with our partners from once a month to bi-monthly, so twice a month. And we sort of changed our platform. We used to have sort of topic-specific conversations for our gatherings. And for the first part of COVID, we let the conversation be more free-flowing, and people just sort of check in with what they were doing and how they were feeling. And it was an incredibly supportive environment that I think kept a lot of us, including me, going through a very difficult time. If you would hold a group and only 3 girls or 1 girl would show up, you got ideas from our partners on how to maybe engage with other girls or do a different activity, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So the other thing that we were able to do during COVID is give out micro grants. We had a call through both our mailing list and our website and our social media, and we invited organizations that worked with girls, not only with girls, but had some kind of girl programming, to get a small between 500 and 2,000 micro grant that would go directly to direct service with the girls. And as you can see, Kelly mentioned this earlier, we had 33 partners in this initiative, and they ran from teachers, domestic violence workers, community organizations, health clinics, all who received these small grants and started doing programming with their girls. And then as we reached, I think we did a sort of a calculation, and we think we reached over 600 girls in 44 communities run by these 33 organizations in 14 different states. And, there was a really different approach by these new partners to the types of activities that they wanted to do with these girls. A lot was direct service. Mentors would create different kinds of boxes. food boxes, cooking supplies, soap, hand sanitizer. There are some teen pregnancy and teen mother specific care packages or supply boxes created. There was coat drives, and then there was also cultural activities, including beading, ribbon skirt making, and all those supplies would be created in little care packages and either dropped off on girls' porches, or there would be a local community pickup spot. And also there was social and emotional wellness kits, just care packages so that the girls would feel good about themselves. And as Kelly mentioned, that there was, or I mentioned, mobile phones and data plans for girls to stay connected with mentors and with their community. And then virtually, mentors would convene weekly meetings where they would use those supplies, some of those supplies. So a really popular activity was cooking. And so everybody would have cooking supplies, including pots and pans, and the ingredients, and then the mentor would do a cooking demonstration while the girls were able to participate at home. There was also sewing and beading instruction. There were mental health check-ins, introduction to instructions to produce different types of cultural objects, and also some self-defense and physical fitness classes. And as weather improved and lockdowns let up, some of those actually even were able to take place outside in socially distanced and safe ways. And a lot of these ideas got sort of crowdsourced on our bi-weekly meetings, where somebody would have an idea and everybody would get so excited about it and they would build on it and they would adapt it to their own communities. And it was really, really a sort of inspiring way to watch communities connect to each other. And there's been talk about trying to bring some of the groups together online so that the girls can all meet each other, but that has not happened yet. So these microgrants really expanded our reach and increased our network. Everybody who received a microgrant was invited to join our biweekly calls, and we've had some partners who have joined every single call and some who come in and out. But you can see on this slide sort of the diverse regions we were able to have access to and have conversations with, and really expand in our main geographic focus, as Kelly mentioned earlier, of South Dakota. We expanded more partners and more programming. But now, as you can see, we are more active in many parts of the country. So that is sort of a rundown of the COVID activities. Kelly, please let me know if I missed anything. And so now we are going to ask a couple of questions to start a discussion about the programming that you see in your communities. I think Alexis is going to put this poll in the chat for the first part, which is, are there gender specific programs and activities in your community? That means girls separate from boys, women separate from men. And if you just want to quickly answer that.
I think they need to answer both questions, Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then the second question is, are there written or web-based materials accessible to community members aimed at preserving cultural traditions, language, passing on intergenerational knowledge? And once we've give it another minute. I think that's probably close to everyone. Oh, not yet. Sorry. Okay, I think we're gonna end. I'm gonna end the poll and share the results, which I think, can everybody see those? I don't know if I can make it bigger on my screen.
So I think it would, if for the people who said yes to the 2 people who said there are gender specific programs, if you're comfortable, would you want to share what those are in the chat? What kind of programming that is? What activities you know might take place? And the same goes for the second question. If you did answer yes about web-based or accessible community, accessible materials for the community aimed at preserving cultural traditions, language, and passing on intergenerational knowledge. If you won't mind sharing some of those thoughts or ideas in the chat, or we can actually, there aren't that many people. I mean, there aren't an overwhelming number of people here. You could just unmute yourself or raise your hand and let us know what those activities are.
So one of the discussions we have with our partners on the second question is because of the ubiquitous nature of cultural appropriation, oftentimes Native communities don't necessarily want to write things down because they can be taken and used in a way that's not respectful or appropriate. And one of the things that our partners are telling us, though, is that because some girls don't have these aunties or mothers or grandmothers to tell them their origin stories, to tell them how women had major important roles in Native communities, and still do, obviously, but even before colonial forces came here, women had major property, ownership of houses, farming tools, made the decisions about agriculture, and so anyway, a lot of the history and cultural traditions we want to preserve, but it's a real sort of question on how to do that and how to make it accessible to girls who may not have the knowledgeable family member to tell them that. And so some of the partners are wanting to write some of these things down, especially so that girls who don't know and want to access that history and culture can have more of a resource. And so I think that's something that many of them are moving toward doing, including language preservation too. So I don't know if any of you have any comments on that. I think Louis does. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Good morning. Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Welcome.
Sorry, I just had somebody come. I just wanted to hop in a little bit and follow up some of the comments and then kind of address the poll here, kind of just from my perspective. I'm a member of the Seminole Tribe of Florida, and I just want to start by saying that I'm extremely grateful to see what's going on here. I'm truly inspired by the type of direction that this project is taking and kind of how it's in touch with it's organizing Native women across the United States, and that's something that's super hard to do. And it's really inspiring to see it happening, especially with young women. Gender specific programs I was actually active in another group that was, so it was focused on young boys, and we called it the Brighton Boys Club. And so we were focused on gender specific activities, and we did something similar where we like to check in. But we often encourage them to check in with each other, that we weren't actually wanting us to ask them questions. And so when I came in today and I was hearing about this, I was just taken back, because right now we're kind of not having that type of engagement, and I'm getting older, so I can't really be in that space anymore. And again, it was just really inspiring, and right now, I'm sure most of you know, Suicide Prevention Week is coming up in a couple of weeks. And so I've been trying to focus some efforts on that and just being involved with youth. And again, I was just really inspired by what I've seen in this presentation, and I'm grateful to be here. For the second question, I would kind of second what Kelly was saying, is that it's very difficult in terms of writing, in terms of archiving, putting those things away. And we do have services that help us out with that. But things that are women focused or gender focused, or even practices and cultural traditions that are more gender related, those things I feel like are often a tool that people will use to kind of, it's something that they can connect on, right? And so even though it doesn't get archived, it doesn't get put away or written down, I see it in my community where that's the thing that keeps them together. So it's kind of a mixed up thing here. Once again, I'm super grateful for everything that was shared here today, and just taken away by all this.
Louis, thank you so much for the comment. We're really thrilled to have someone who has been involved with gender-specific work with boys, and we actually want to make more connections with folks like you. So we're really happy that you came and you spoke up, and yeah, we'd love to keep in touch with you. We have another comment here by B. Whipple. As a mental health counselor, seeing the vast needs of our community is overwhelming, especially during COVID-19. This is a perfect forum to start identifying ways to share traditions, language, and intergenerational knowledge. Would love to have further discussion about Imagine other programs. As a former program planner, I love what I see so far. Thank you for that. Did you want to make any more comments, or?
Sure, I'm not sure if I'm on or not.
You are. Welcome.
Oh, I am. Okay. Hi. Well,
Awesome.
thank you. And then we are coming off of a USET behavioral health assessment program, identifying needs, specific needs for Passamaquoddy. We're in Indian Township in Maine. And I am so thrilled because on my to-do list, among trying to see as many clients as I can, is creating a space to identify programs to meet the needs of youth, gender specific, boys, girls, women. I know in the past we've had tremendous success with robust programs put on by the community, but COVID pretty much shut that down. The school has picked up on some of those, but this is just like breathing fresh air into this. And I just want to thank you so much for identifying like this program, because I'm definitely going to be looking at this and others that I've seen during this whole week set, not with a couple weeks of sessions that I've been viewing. So really, thank you. I can't express enough my concern. I work with at-risk kids in Lawrence, Mass, so the Hispanic community, and created a program for girls and called it like Latina group or whatever, and kicked that off down there a couple of years ago before I came up to work here. And it has been a goal of mine to reestablish or create something here. So to know that I may be able to, either piggyback or have you help us create this is just amazing. So you'll be hearing from me.
Great. I'm so excited. Thank you for speaking up and telling us a little bit about what you're doing. Bernice Jordan, I'm from the Fort Peck Sioux Tribe. There's a language and cultural department for cultural restoration. That's great. I hope a lot of people can get access to what they're doing. Wanda James, how can USET tribal nations learn more about the programs and services that you offer? I noticed on the map list of programs and USET member tribal nations were not shown as receiving funds. We seem to have better connections in the Great Plains and in the West. And so I was thrilled when USET contacted us to do this presentation so we can start working more in Southern and Eastern tribal areas. And so, yeah, that's certainly true what you said, but hopefully we can change that with some of the connections that we're making today. And in particular, when we have calls for proposals, we would love for them, for you to share them within your networks. Lisa just put in the chat our website, and you can join our email newsletter there. And in that newsletter, we announce all of our engagement opportunities, funding opportunities. Right now, we have an art competition for Native women and girls, and we would encourage you to share that with your network so we can have more entries into that. We're going to produce a book next year based on what people submit. And so, yeah, please be in touch with us and try and get us more connected with USET region tribal communities. So thank you for that.
I'll see if I can find a direct link to the art call that we're doing right now and put it in the chat. Because I'm sharing my screen, I can't get it up right this minute, but before the end of the session, I'll try to put it here, and maybe I can get it to Alexis, who could send it to everybody who's registered today, if, you know, that link, if possible, or put it in a shared folder. But I'll get that to everybody.
That's great.
And I just wanted to follow up, Kelly, for 1 second on how adaptable Imagine is. And I'm sorry, I don't know your first name, but you were talking, you're in Maine, and there's been school-based programs. We actually have a partner who's working with her local schools in Minnesota, and they have found a way to get the youth mentors who are high school students, and also in some community colleges, I believe, credit for participating and being a mentor, and also using that sort of as an incentive to keep girls working with other girls in the community. And so it's been a really adaptive model. You know, because we don't have a set curriculum, and you know, as Kelly mentioned, like, we've worked in juvenile justice with programs and accessing girls who are currently incarcerated. Because of COVID, actually, we were able to reach girls who are in treatment facilities for substance use, also, as well as incarcerated in juvenile justice facilities. So it's a really flexible model that tries to be as inclusive to as many populations as possible.
Okay, we're running a little bit short on time, but I'm glad, because that means we're having a good discussion. So we just wanted to present you with another resource. I'm going to close this poll.
Oh, sorry, did I not do that?
No, I think I needed to close it on my end.
Okay.
So this is basically a conversation starter that you can use. And again, this has been a physical activity to date. We've tried to adapt it to do it online, but it's basically what we call a resilience card exercise. And as you can see, we hand out these cards that are on these, the circle to you know, represent Native ways of thinking, as opposed to a linear line of thinking. And why don't you show the next slide, Lisa?
Sure.
So we have done this in our international work, but we created this set of cards to basically speak to some of the skills, knowledge, assets, if you will, like human assets that Native girls may want to have. And these are available in the Dropbox, where I just put the link in it. We put the PDF with, there's 150 cards. These were created through a series of focus group discussions that we did with Native women from around the nation, in terms of, you know, what is it that your girls need, what knowledge, what skills. They were also vetted in the development process with young women too. And so they're along the lines of different themes: my traditions, my safety, my environment, my body. So you can take a look at those, and the way we physically done them is to just cut pieces of paper in half so that each one is on a half sheet, and you hand out, you know, a group of them to people sitting around a table, and they debate, like, should our girls know this? And if so, at what age do they know it? And really, some of the bigger takeaway issues are that girls need to know stuff really early, right? So they know how to, you know, get help if there's a domestic violence situation, or they know how to prevent pregnancy before the age that they can become pregnant. So there's just lots of discussion topics here. And we wanted to show you a sort of imperfect substitute for how we do this in person, just on a Google Jamboard that Lisa has put together, where we just sort of randomly selected 10 of our 150 cards, but you can kind of see what they look like and how we do the exercise. So why don't you go ahead, Lisa?
Okay, can you guys see that?
I think you need to make the card bigger. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to just bring a few cards over, make them big.
And you can read it out, what each of the cards say.
Okay, I will start with that. Hold on.
Just a couple of them.
Okay, so you can see, I don't know if everybody can see this one. I can make it even bigger. This one is part of the finance group. And so it says, my finance, I can set short and long-term financial goals and create a plan to meet them. And so what we would say is, what age is this, at what is the latest age that, or the youngest age and the latest age that a girl should have these skills? And usually there'd be a discussion among the group that, you know, the in-person group. So if we'd be happy to hear people's thoughts about what age, and you can see the ages are across the top of the screen.
And so usually in a room, we give people tape, and then the age cards are along the wall, and then people put under the appropriate age card where they think, or when they think a girl should know this thing. And it usually spawns a really nice discussion among people. And, you know, they say, oh, a girl should know this at this age. And other people will be like, you know, no, she needs to know it younger. Other people are like, oh my God, why does a girl need to know this thing until, you know, she's ready for it? So it's just a nice conversation starter. Maybe you could read a couple of the other ones, Lisa, so people
Sure.
can get an idea.
This one is from the My Traditions group, and it is, I know the major female deities and their roles in our traditional and creation stories. Then we have from My Body, I have 2 healthy coping strategies that I can use when I'm stressed. And there's My Social Circle. I know how to say no to my friends when they pressure me to do something that doesn't feel right. Oh, sorry. Google Jamboard, not always the easiest to use. My family. I know that family doesn't always mean just mom, dad, brother, sister. And I'll do this last one, and then be happy to hear what people think. If my beliefs, I know that even if I didn't grow up with my tribe on our tribal land, I can identify as Native and learn about who my people are.
So we use this in our training with communities who want to do girls' societies, but then when those start, the mentors of the girls' societies also use this within the groups, the girls' society groups that they form to, you know, have discussions with girls. And often that leads them to where they need to focus in terms of the content that girls want to discuss, know more about, etc. And so it's really nice in terms of being able to guide future sessions toward what girls seem to be most interested in.
I think it also, when done at the community level, gives you a nice sort of big picture about what age you really want to start these groups, because you think you maybe want to start with 13-year-old girls, but then you see a lot of these skills are clustered at a younger age group, and you realize actually you want to start programming earlier. At least that's something, a takeaway that I've seen time and time again in workshops.
Yeah, you're right, Lisa. We have a comment from Ms. Whipple. I don't know your first name, B. Whipple. We started a collaborative meeting between our Child Welfare Office, the GV Office, and Behavioral Health. This exercise would be a perfect starting piece for our fall meeting. Excellent. Please download it. It's in the link that I provided, but if you go to our website, there's a lot of other stuff there, but in this Dropbox, we have the cards, we have our presentation from today, and also a couple of our briefs describing the work that.
Did Kelly just freeze? Yeah.
Yep, I think she's.
So I'm just going to tell her that.
Have anything else really to share? We have a slide that shows our social media.
I'll get it.
Channels, but if you go to our website, you can also find those. So again, it's www.imagine-network is the website, and you can find a lot of it. No, that's great, Lisa. It's there.
It's there. Okay.
So
so I'm just going to try to find the Imagine Art Call. It's also on our, it's definitely up on the Instagram at Imagine_network. There's a link to the art call. I can't find the can't find it on our website right at this second. I just don't have enough screens to open it up. But we'd love it if you would share it with girls in your community or girls that you work with or people you know who might be working with adolescent girls and young women. I don't know if anybody has any other questions or comments that they would like to.
Okay, I guess there's no questions or comments. Lisa and Kelly, thank you so much. This was such a great session.
thank you, Alexis, and thank you for everyone who joined us. We're really thrilled to be in touch, and hopefully we'll be able to interact with you more.
Definitely. So in appreciation of your support of USET and dedication to tribal public health, we will be shipping you a small gift at the close of the conference. And additionally, all attendees' names will be entered into a daily prize raffle once for every breakout or plenary session you attend, and winners will be announced in tomorrow's plenary. So you can complete the anonymous poll survey to help us evaluate this session. And also don't forget to visit the exhibit hall and lounge area. So I'll watch that.
Let me stop sharing my screen.
If you don't mind, one of the questions you had was, well, you know, the where you were putting all the values underneath the age groups. Which age group did most of those fall under? 6 to 8?
Yeah, in discussions, it's amazing, like so many of them are on, yeah, the young age range. Not every single one, but a lot of them fall quite young, you know, because of the experiences that a lot of girls have, you know, different things going on in their lives, and people really feel as if they want to equip girls with, you know, these sets of knowledge and skills earlier rather than later.
Yeah, I could see that. I was just, you know, now today's day and age with all the, you know, just the young girls, they seem a lot older. So they definitely need to know a lot of those things beforehand, you know, different than what we did when we grew up.
Yeah, that's right.
I was definitely shocked at the first workshop when I realized, you know, based on the discussions everybody was having, that, yeah, it was really much younger than I would have thought based on, you know, 30, 40 years ago growing up.
Yeah. And I think there's also a kind of balance people are hoping to strike with, like, making girls responsible for learning so many things versus, you know, giving them what they need. And so not putting too much pressure on girls, but also, you know, helping them where they really do need assistance at a younger and younger age, unfortunately.
What I see, and thank you so much, I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation and learned a lot. What I see is more and more you talking about age and knowledge or experience. The peer pressures are just tremendous at these younger ages, and also I think society as a whole exposes our children to much more at a younger age than what, as you say, 40 years ago, or even less. But it's just tremendously upsetting to me to realize that they are exposed to these things when they're not really equipped to handle them in any form or fashion.
Yeah, I agree so much, Wanda. And that's another reason too that we don't just work with girls individually. We want communities to form these girl societies so that girls are able to support each other. So they have, you know, a set of mentors in the community for when they do experience things that, you know, it's just unfair for girls to have to deal with, sexting, you know, you name it, all sorts of stuff. And it's hard if you're sitting there by yourself as a girl to know how to deal with this. But if you have a group of girls and a safe place where you can, you know, discuss these things, what's going on, how do I react, what do I do? It just seems a lot better in terms of girls, you know, health and well-being.
And when you talk about safe space, I mean, that's huge because a lot of tribal communities don't have that. You know, you see kids walking around in the middle of the night because they have no place to go, you know? So having something like that would definitely help a lot of those kids.
Yeah, and we didn't talk a lot about it, but the safe space is really something that needs to be established and agreed upon by the community. So it's usually like a case of needing to talk with the community leaders about, you know, on for a certain 2 hours every week, you know, the community center or, you know, a health clinic or, you know, some place where girls can get together. It's a girl only space and the mentors are there and they can talk about things. And so it really is a whole community effort and an ongoing effort to keep this space available and safe for girls. And it's not a trivial one for the reasons, you know, that you just talked about, Bernice. So that is a big effort that we do a lot of training on.
So I have a question as a follow-up to what you just said, and my brain, I think, went in the wrong direction. So I apologize if this question doesn't make sense. But when we're talking about the subject matter that brings so many of our girls into the need of having these safe areas and mentors and that type of thing, have you found that if a community establishes this one area as that safe space, does that also have its own repercussions though, because those girls are possibly vulnerable in those areas and they're persons that are making life difficult for them find that out, and there's other steps that have to be taken to protect them?
Yeah, that's a great question, Wanda, and it is something that is constantly needing to be looked out for and negotiated. And oftentimes what we have done is, at a sort of, not just the mentors, because that's a lot of pressure for them to try and, make sure, they're contacting all the girls and, saying this is where we're getting together and when, but to keep it safe, it's really like a community agreement that we often encourage and equip mentors to have a discussion at the community level and, say that, Tuesday afternoons when it's time for the girls group that, there aren't adult males that, are allowed, unless they're a guardian or whatever, allowed within, certain jurisdiction, physical space, 50, 100 feet, whatever. They can have actually people who are sort of like security guards who make sure the space is safe. And so it is a whole sort of community level agreement that needs to be put in place to really have the community help honor this safe space that the girls need. And it's often an ongoing discussion too, and girls are encouraged to tell their mentors if they don't feel safe either getting to or being at this place. And so it really is a challenge and something that is constantly needing attention.
If I can just follow up for a very quick follow-up, is that in some of our communities, the mentors have stipends for transportation, and they actually drive. If they have a vehicle, they will drive girls to and from the safe space if necessary. Or there are in another location, it's become an after-school activity, and they have arranged transportation through the school buses to get girls to and from the space safely. So it is also a logistical issue for many reasons that we are constantly trying to address and think about.
Another feature we try to build out too is not having this Girls Society happen just in the tribal capital town. We really like to be able to have it in all of the small communities in the tribal nation or the urban Indian neighborhoods, so that girls can easily reach these places. And obviously you need to strike a balance between having enough girls to constitute a group versus having it be close enough to where they live or where they go to school. So that's a whole kind of logistical set of things that need to be considered.